Madam President, I'm intrigued by Estonia's political system. It's a parliamentary system.
Yes.
You as the president are the head of state, and then the prime minister is the head of government. First of all, it's a big congratulations for having president and prime minister who are both women leading this country. Now, back to the political question. How is it that a country so small with such a few number of voters cannot have just 2 or 3 dominant political parties, that it has to be led by a coalition of parties?
It's the electoral model. It's a modified TONT model, which actually makes sure that, the parliament has a high number of parties within it, which means that all political views in Estonia are represented through parliament. And then in the parliament, they have to gather a majority, a simple majority to form a government. But because you have many fractions, 4 has been minimum, and then we were already worried that it's too low a number. 6 is pretty normal, 5 is current. And then they have to form a coalition, which again means that, no government can be, straightforward left or right thing, or for openness or totally for kind of closedness. It has to be a coalition. And this also guarantees this kind of stability in developments that, there are never revolutions. There is this conservative path of anticipating where the world is going and trying to kind of anticipate and react before you need a revolution or a radical change. So it's a very balanced model. And now for the president's role, to elect a president, you need an absolute majority. So coalition cannot do it. It has to be a kind of a broader political consensus. And this also guarantees president a certain independence to pinpoint, even if your power is legally quite small, but you can pinpoint and show light to the issues where, as a society, we must pay more attention. And this is the role of every president, which normally makes them relatively unpopular when they are in the office with the politicians, but popular with people, which of course helps, to carry out this role. It seems to be the fate of all of us elected this way. And I really feel that, at least for Estonians, this kind of parliamentary model works really well.
Has the country been able to keep politics out of government business?
No, politics is in the government business, but there are different colors of politicians in the government, and when you have to argue about where we go, then normally the consensus is centered pretty much in the center of where you could go. For example, we have really heated debates in Estonia about an issue which is important here as well. You are a country which regrets its deforestation and tries to reforest yourself. We are a country which is 60% covered with wood, and we have very bitter debates about, how much we can cut this wood. Both sides are strong. Some have more money, others are louder, and finally, we are basically staying on the main course while we are all the time arguing. It looks nasty, but we stay the course, I believe, which is more or less balanced. This is, a modus operandi for this kind of a multipolar political world in Estonia. And also, of course, we try to then technologically to support, sustainable development. For example, also here we have an Estonian company, Timbetter, who is working on an environmentally kind of beneficial logging. And I just yesterday asked, could you also ask help with reforestation projects? And they said yes. They are now thinking of a system where they could also electronically help to handle and manage reforestation process.
How would that be done? This country, we've been talking about, reforesting the country and getting to a certain forest cover. You have 60% forest cover in your country. We are struggling to get to 10% and maintain that. So how would Estonian private sector and even your government be able to help us improve this? And you're saying electronically.
Yes, this is, by the way, not government. This is a private sector enterprise. They work also with, for example, Latin American huge timber companies. What they do is that when somebody cuts the logs, and then they provide the company with a system which they take a photo with their mobile phone and they immediately measure what is there, what quality it is, and it goes into the central database. So nobody can lie, nobody can steal. It's all very visible and transparent and also efficient. There will be no losses because if you know what you're bringing out of the wood, you already can sell different parts to different factories which do different things to it. And they yesterday explained to me that they are now thinking about how to make a same kind of controllable, transparent framework for reforestation. Don't ask me, ask Tim Peter to come here and explain to you in a closer detail, because in principle a politician in Estonia is a dumb user of the electronic systems, because I mean they are all built by private sector. We are smart prosecutors, and then how the black box functions. Well, I have 2 degrees, genetic engineering and MBA. I don't know what is within these things, but they do what we ask them to do, and they are also able to demonstrate to us that we can trust that they don't sneak our data away, which is also an important element. Trusted connectivity. Right. You have to know who controls the technology and the data. And we just had Tallinn Digital Summit with OECD, European Union, US present, and started to build Tallinn consensus about how we want to see that in 21st century we are sure that we can trust our connections. Like today we trust all this geopositioning system, the GPS, because it's run by a democracy. My son thinks it's a natural resource, by the way, and it isn't. And it's run by a democracy. Therefore, the threshold to cut off the service to get your political objectives is extremely high. It's so high, we've never seen it. This is what we now need for 4G, 5G, all this connectivity. That technology always does what we ask it to do and explains to us that it doesn't do anything more.
Estonia, please go ahead and do.
All right. So, I mean, you did mention briefly about the